friends, welcome back to Handmade Not Hallmark. Amanda here. Today I've got this really fun card featuring some products from Possum Stamps, and I'm going to show you how to create your very own pattern paper with colored pencils. Let's get into it. Today I'm going to be using the Oopsy Daisy stamp set from Possum Stamps. This came out in their spring release and I just think it is so sweet. I love all the detail in the daisies, and the greetings are fantastic as well. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get all of my images stamped down. I'm going to be using a piece of Neenah Desert Storm cardstock and my MISTI stamp positioner to help me get all of my images exactly where I want them. Next I'm going to take all of my images I want to use, and I'm going to start up in the top corner, and I'm going to kind of fan out down through the card to get as many florals on here as I possibly can. I really like creating my own pattern paper when I've got individual images like this. I really think it's a fun way to utilize stamps and get more use out of them. And I especially like doing it on top of craft cardstock and using my colored pencils. If you've been following me for a while, you know it's one of my favorite techniques and my favorite ways to use my colored pencils. I've done it a few times, and I'll make sure I link some of my favorites in the description and at the end of the video. So I'm going to speed through this process a little bit here just because it's repetitive. I'm going to be using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. This is my favorite ink to use when I use my colored pencils. It's a nice crisp ink and I think it works well with the colored pencils. Going through and filling in all of the space here. I just love these daisies. I think they're super cute. I think they'd look great as Black-Eyed Susans as well. They're kind of blank, so they're not necessarily just for daisies. You can make them into a Cosmo flower. You could color them any way that you like. I just decided to go with a traditional daisy. Next, I have some pieces cut out of some masking paper. You probably don't have to do this much masking, but I wanted to cut these out so that I could stamp down some of the leaves. I wanted to make sure I added some green into my card here, just to kind of help round it out and give the daisies a little bit more pop. Going through and adding in the masked pieces so that I can stamp down the leaves. I also masked the leaves. I didn't need to do this, but they're nice to have in case I want to use them later on. Using that same VersaFine ink, and I'm just going around and adding the leaves where I feel they need to be filled into the empty space. We're going to add some more detail into the empty space a little bit later on, so we don't have to worry about filling in all of that space. Once I have all of the leaves in where I want them, I'm going to hit it with my heat gun just to make sure that it is nice and dry. This is a pigment ink, so it does take a little bit longer to dry. You might notice in one spot that I do get a little bit of a smudge, but once the card is all together, you can't really notice it. It looks like it's meant to be there, so just a heads up that this is a pigment ink. Now you could use any ink that you want. You could use a dye ink and you wouldn't have to worry about that. I just like the VersaFine because I think it's a nice dark crisp ink that works really well with the colored pencils. Last couple of leaves on there, I'm going to get it heated up so it's nice and dry. I'm only going to show the coloring of one daisy because they all get colored the same way. And I'm going to be using Prismacolor colored pencils, and the colors that I'm going to be used will be listed on the screen. I'm going to put on some music, and when we're all finished coloring this daisy, we'll come back and finish up together.
There's a new day that will come again tomorrow. There's a new day to wash away the pain. There's a new day to take away your sorrow, and the old ways get washed out by the rain. Darling, you've got to keep holding on through the night, 'cause I promise you this: if you try to get some sleep, if you give up the fight, if only just for a bit, there's a new day to leave behind your troubles. There's a new day, and it will set you free.
just love how vibrant those daisies turned out, especially with the addition of the yellow and the green. I really think it makes them pop off that background. Next, I'm going to do my greeting. I'm going to be using a piece of heavyweight vellum here, and I'm going to stamp and I'm going to heat emboss with it. This is one of my favorite ways to kind of add a greeting over top of a busy background, is using vellum. What I'm doing is I'm taking my greeting and I'm just going to line it up here on my vellum, and I'm going to stamp it down using that same VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Because it is a pigment ink, it stays wet for a little bit, so I can use embossing powder over top of it, the same way you can use an embossing ink. I'm going to be using some Ranger clear embossing powder to do this, so that my greeting stays nice and crisp so you can read it, and I still can have a nice shiny greeting. Again, you could leave this step out and just let the stamping dry all the way, and you can still have the same effect, but I don't have any patience, so I wanted to make sure it was nice and dry so I could continue with my card. With vellum, you have to make sure that your heat gun is really, really hot and that you don't hold your heat gun over the vellum too long. I'm moving my heat gun constantly just to make sure that I don't scorch the vellum. And once it's all nice and melted, we have a nice shiny greeting. Next, I have a top folding A2 size card base with some Simon 110 pound cardstock. I also have a piece of black cardstock from my stash. I'm not sure if this is Simon Says or Lawn Fawn, but any will work. Next, I'm going to take some liquid glue and I'm going to attach it to this black panel, and I just love how it mats up that daisy image, and it really, really makes them pop. I probably didn't have to use this entire piece of black, but I've got a lot in my stash, so I wasn't too worried. Next, I'm going to adhere that panel down to our card base, but I almost forgot about my greeting, and I didn't want to mess up this time, so I was okay and I was quick, and the glue didn't get everywhere, so I'm just kind of lining up where I want to place it, using the grid lines to help me kind of eyeball the lining up and wrapping it around the back of my main panel here. And you can see that because it's still pretty loose, it is going to kind of pop away from that greeting, or excuse me, pop away from that background. So you're still going to be able to read it, and you're still going to be able to see some of that background shine through, which I just think is so fun. This works with lots of different techniques and cards. I think this is a really nice go-to card design. Next, I wanted to stamp a greeting on the inside. I turned this into a birthday card, but you could easily turn it into any card that you like. I just took some more greetings from the Possum Stamps Prickly Friend stamp set, and I stamped down happy birthday. And then I also took the same daisy stamp and I used some Simon Says fog ink to stamp down a daisy on the inside. There's a stem included in the stamp set that you can add to your daisies. I didn't quite get mine exactly lined up with the daisy, but I wasn't too concerned about it because this is a handmade card and perfection is overrated. Now that the inside's all finished, we can go in with some of our finishing details. I wanted to add in a little heart embellishment to the front of the card, so I have a clay heart here. I'm not exactly sure where it came from, but there are lots out on the market. Next, I'm going in with some ebony, simply white, and dandelion crystal drops from Nuvo to fill in some of that empty space and to add a little bit more interest to my card. Because this is my own personal pattern paper, I think this works out really great to fill in some of the details and add a little bit of character to the card. Again, you could leave this step out. You could go in with your colored pencil and do this. If you don't have Nuvo drops, you could go in with paint, or you could just go in with white. Either way, you can make it any way that you like that fits your personality. I'm going to tap off my card onto a ink pad to help flatten out those dots. And then finally, I'm going to go in with an aqua shimmer pen to add a little bit of shimmer to the inside of my daisies. And that will finish up this card for today. If you liked it, please hit the like button as well as to subscribe so you don't miss out on any more videos here at my YouTube channel. I can't wait to share with you the next one. Have a great day. I'll see you again soon. Bye!
On screen, I've got a few videos that I think you'll enjoy. Consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more videos at my YouTube channel.